Welcome everybody to Rad Pod and Chill. My name is Heidi Sigmund Kuda. I am here with High Fidelity and Jim Stewartson. Jim, you really look chill, man. Like you were like so chill. You must be exhausted after that Twitter Spaces that I got to hear part of yesterday. I want to talk about that, but I wanted to start the show because we have not had a chance yet to pay our respects to the undearly departed Silvio Berlusconi from Italy, who died recently. And there's been a lot going on, but I do bring him up. There's always a method to my madness, right? I bring him up because, as Ruth Ben-Ghiat has taught me and taught many of us, the man had 27 indictments, 7 convictions, managed to get them wiped because one area he was much more successful than Trump was in actually changing the laws to benefit him. So I bring that up because David Pepper, who joined a recent Betty Dangerous speakeasy, taught us a very valuable lesson. Trump's indictment, conviction, incarceration is not going to save democracy. So I just want to make sure that everybody's not sitting around waiting for that to occur and then sitting around and watching the GOP primary for 6 months or whatever. No, we got work to do. As our dear friend Jeff Charlotte told us, we are not safe in 2023. Nevertheless, when we do see a conviction, and if he does go to jail, I will be very, very happy. But I wanted to start there because I want to make sure that everybody knows that every day, every hour is going to count as we head toward 2024.
I have some
Donald Trump's a court jester. He's a puppet. The dude is incapable of planning anything, of coming up with strategies. He has been a puppet of fascists in the United States and the Kremlin for a very, very long time. As a reminder, he went to Moscow in 1987. Out of the fucking blue, spent hundreds of thousands of dollars attacking NATO in the New York Times. I'm going to say this, Donald Trump had no fucking idea what NATO was before he went to Moscow. Like literally, much less like some sort of anti-NATO activist, right?
Yeah.
So if you're looking for signs, that dude has been laundering money for the Russians for 50 fucking years.
That's his job.
And dude, all along the way has failed 100% of the time. Every single time he fails. And what happens? Somebody swoops in to save his ass. It's either the Russians or some Christo-fascist asshat like Mark Burnett, who was like, oh, let's get this guy who hangs out with fucking Jeffrey Epstein and make up a whole invented myth about how he's some kind of super Fifth Avenue fucking tycoon. No, he's got a tiny family office where he launders money. That's it. He just fucking sells real estate to shitty people. And when he ever tried something like getting into football or getting into casinos or any of the other shit, he failed because he sucks. And the reason that matters and is relevant here is that all this shit that he's doing, like, he's so fucking stupid that he said out loud all of the elements required for a crime for which he could get the death penalty. Think about that. He did, like, that was the fucking, what we heard on audio tape.
Yeah.
This is not the mastermind. That is not what's happening here. So Donald Trump going to prison just means that they have to get a new marionette, which they need anyway, because dude is so mind fucked he can't even think.
Right.
So
And
to back you up, Heidi, Donald Trump is not the mastermind. Donald Trump needs to be in prison for the rest of his life because he's a psychopathic criminal. But what we really need is to get these military motherfuckers and people embedded in politics and in our goddamn government out. That's what needs to happen in order to fix our
and we're gonna welcome
and help
to
them to learn.
Jim. Welcome to Jim's first TED Talk. I wanted to start there because your summary in your Twitter Spaces about Trump last night was really, really. It was very much along the lines of what you were just saying, but I think it's still not quite congealing in people's head. But as Ruth Ben-Ghiat says, Trump is uniquely criminal and so dangerous because of his ties to multiple foreign mafias. So, but I also think that, again, I want to thank our Department of Justice because they seem to enjoy indicting the criminals of Trumplandia on Thursday, right before we go live. I think it is very, very important that there's been a lot of breaking news today about more indictments to come, more people picked off. Hi-Fi, why don't you bring us up to speed? Smoke them if you got them, but
Okay. Well,
just
we got
just
all
cut.
sorts of fun stuff going
Yeah,
on.
just a couple of breakers.
There were 3 more filings. I believe they were in the DC court. They were filed under seal. The articles that came out about them said that Trump is facing up to 30 to 45 more charges.
Yes.
Don't know if that's real or not, but I do know
Yeah.
one thing that is real that makes me very, very happy. Um, I just want everyone to understand that, as Ohio goes, so goes the nation, right? And
Yes.
and today, former Speaker of the Ohio House, Mr. Uh, Larry Householder, he was sentenced to 20 years in prison for his role in the first energy scandal, which, if you've heard me before, it's the largest bribery scandal in Ohio's history. It was $61 million in bribes for a $1.3 billion bailout. And the thing I really need to point out to people is if you look at the behaviors of Florida Power and Light, if you look at the behavior of the Alabama energy company that was hiring black ops companies to run political candidates and run intel and operations against political candidates that were not favorable to that company, we have a power company problem in this country. And I think this may be the first really big domino in solving that problem. Boom.
Wow. I kind of probed a little bit. This guy's been doing some really terrible things for the state for some time. So this is quite a big deal. He's definitely one of those characters that's up to no good. And once again, I'm going to cite David Pepper. So many of these folks get into office because they're not even challenged. There's all kinds of incumbents who don't get challenged all across the country. And it's our job between now and 2024. It's our job now to start finding the candidates that can start challenging some of these nefarious characters. Apparently, half of the Tennessee GOP wasn't challenged, and that is quite apparent because we've seen what's been happening in Tennessee. Jim, I kind of wanted to jump into something really important, if you don't mind. Full disclosure for those just tuning in, Jim Stewartson is being sued by both Mike Flynn and Kash Patel. And I bring that up because many people understand that is
Whoops.
truly like, like, yeah. So, so, and I was thinking about this again based on your Twitter Spaces. When you look at the latest news related to Mike Flynn's attorney, I mean, it's pretty shocking. The people that they're involved with, some of the worst people populating the world at the moment. And I don't think people know how bad lawyers need lawyers in this cabal. Is there anything that you can say on that? You're a little bit muted, my boomer friend.
Let me
You probably
briefly describe
just the
Jesse.
facts. Just the
Just
facts,
the
man.
facts.
Just the facts.
No, it doesn't matter that he looks like Alfred E.
Just,
Newman's
just the
swore
facts.
cousin. It doesn't.
Just the
That's not.
facts.
It is a fact that he is a tax deadbeat for hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's a fact. Anyway, Jesse Banal represents the following people: Donald Trump in several different cases. Mike Flynn. Mike Flynn is suing three entities: the FBI, the Department of Justice, and the Department of Jim Stewartson. So Jesse Banal represents Mike Flynn in those matters as well. Mike Flynn, speaking of Kash Patel, you may recall that Kash Patel, who is a chud, he's already suing me for calling him a chud. So Kash Patel is a chud who has been one of Mike Flynn's sort of rat fuckers for a long time. And Kash Patel paid two ex-FBI guys, whistleblowers, to go to Congress, to the Weaponization Committee, and lie their ass off. There were two of them. One of them is represented by Jesse Banal. So he represents Trump and Flynn and the fake ass whistleblowers. Now, Jesse Banal also represents another guy, and this is a weird one. A guy named Khalifa Haftar. You may ask, who's that? A Libyan warlord who is running the Libyan National Army, an army that was backed up by two important people, Eric Prince and Wagner. Literally, like Wagner had shitloads of troops of Spetsnaz soldiers in Libya backing up Khalifa Haftar. And Eric Prince got indicted just recently for trying to traffic weapons to Khalifa Haftar. Now you may ask, why are you bringing up Khalifa Haftar? Because fucking Jesse Banal represents him in court.
Yeah. Crazy.
The Libyan warlord. So, to review, I am being sued by a guy who represents Trump, Flynn, whistleblowers that Kash Patel, who is also suing me, is paying to lie to Congress, and Libyan warlord Khalifa Haftar, who was backed up by Prigozhin and Eric Prince. Isn't that weird? You may recall Prigozhin also helped Mike Flynn steal the 2016 election because he ran the Internet Research Agency, which Mike Flynn openly cooperated with. Right on Twitter. He was like, hey, see this GRU cutout right here that works for the Internet Research Agency? Retweet this shit. Follow it. Do it. I mean, it was like that. It was that fucking blatant. Now, the kicker to the Jesse Banal story, and I will land my plane, Jesse Banal got flipped on to Jack Smith, the lawyer who represents all of those people. Had some number of the 84 witnesses that Jack Smith has flipped on Jesse Banal, the tax deadbeat Flynn, Trump, Khalifa Haftar, Kash Patel representing motherfucker. That. Welcome to my goddamn world and the end of my testimony.
I just need to point this out. Haftar can't even show up in freaking court, man. This was from
Type
May.
in Haftar and Banal.
That's what came up.
Oh, there's
He
another
didn't
one.
show up in court.
There's another one that has Alfred E. Newman there, like, you better
What?
stop being so mean to Khalifa Haftar, Libyan warlord from Eric Prince and Wagner. I mean,
Do you remember the Lanny Davis days? Do you remember Lanny Davis? Does that ring a bell? He was like Trump's like PR lawyer, one of the guys' PR lawyer. He was always on Fox,
yeah,
bullshitting around. I just remember one night up at 2 a.m. googling around, and Lanny Davis was like representing Dmitry Firtash too, and I was like, that's weird. Except it's not really weird, right? Yeah,
yeah.
not really,
There's a
not really weird. Yeah.
yeah. There's a number of those sorts of situations. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah,
anyway,
yeah, yeah. So
so
we,
go ahead.
no, 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 no. You keep going, man. I really wanted to start with those two narratives because, again, listening to you explain it very succinctly in Twitter Spaces made me think, you know what? We just need to kind of keep hammering these points home. And, earlier today you were talking about, hey, sorry if I repeated myself when I said something. Nah, man, repetition's our friend. We are in a propaganda war against people who use repetition what is that, Pavlov's dog, where they just say words and people and we need to do the same thing. We
Yeah.
absolutely need to do the same thing.
It's in well, we have there's a difference. So in military parlance, there's propaganda. There are three kinds. There is black propaganda, which is what most people think of, which is false information
Right.
coming from a false or unknown source.
Right.
Gray propaganda, which has some version of the truth, but you don't know where it's coming from.
Right.
And white propaganda, which you know exactly where it's coming from and it's telling the truth, and you're just, using the truth to, try and change people's minds.
Yeah.
So, there is there is an argument that yes, what this is a form of information warfare. What we don't want to do is be coercive, right?
Yeah.
Because that's it's hard to make the truth coercive, right?
Right. Right.
And so as long as it's not deceiving people or intentionally just trying to rub it into their brain beyond the point they want, we need to get the discipline
Yeah.
to make clear, to understand what the messages are, and
Yeah.
just keep hammering it. Mine of late is I just want us to start talking about psychological warfare,
Yeah.
about psyops, start talking about these real things that are in front of us all day long, that the Army does openly, that it's just a fact, it's a reality of life, but we're afraid to talk about it. We're afraid to talk about it in the same way that we're afraid to talk about Russian influence.
Right.
And why is that? Because people call you crazy if you talk about it. They call you crazy if they talk, mind control. What are you talking about? Oh, Manchurian can't. If anybody has ever watched a hypnotist, ever seen like one of those hypnotists, some percentage of the population you can go and they will literally do anything you want. You can literally make them do stuff that they would never ever do in their entire life.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for proof that the mechanism exists in the mind to control people, it really does.
Right.
What these guys are doing is finding all the vulnerabilities they can, using all of the techniques and tactics that they've learned from hundreds of years of warfare. And psyops have been around since warfare has been around. I need us to the world to start talking about our mental health.
Yeah.
Not as a touchy feely lefty whatever, like we need a safe space. No, I'm talking about literal casualties of war,
Right.
right? When you pummel people with aggressive, coercive propaganda, traumatic videos about kids, all of those things, you create trauma, you create
Yep.
dissociation, and those things add up to brainwashing.
Yep.
So we have to start really just mechanically being able to explain it to people. There's a DSM-5, which is the Psychiatric Guide for Diagnosis. There's a DSM-5 category for brainwashing because of coercive propaganda and control. It's right there. It's in the medical literature.
Yep.
That cults, coercive propaganda lead to a dissociative disorder that a lot of us would call brainwashing.
Yeah.
So we need. I just bring this up because this is not a mysterious thing. It's not a crazy thing. These are factual things that you can look up for yourself and just understand what the basic process is that's happening. And once you understand that and it gets demystified a bit, it's easier to kind of process what to do about it.
Right. Right. I have a ton to say, but Hi-Fi, did you have something you wanted to say? Are you, am I allowed to send you a message? Can I text you something?
You can text me something. You know what I want to do, actually? I want to watch our last guest do their own little kind of fun psyop-y thing. Let me pull that up real fast.
Yes, just this is guerrilla tactics. This is one person's way of talking about the propaganda pipelines, and we will preface this clip by saying propaganda kills, and we're going to talk about that.
As soon as I find the freaking file. Oops, sorry. Almost have it, and here we are.
Bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, ciao, ciao. Una mattina mi sono svegliato e ho trovato l'invaso. Partigiano, portami via. Oh bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, ciao, ciao. Partigiano, portami via, che mi sento di morire.
I like that.
Do
you know why I picked that song, by the way?
Shit. Yeah, let's hear about it.
So that song is called Bella Ciao. And, the story goes that it was a partisan resistance song during World War II in Italy. But I did some research on that, and not really. Maybe for a few small factions inside of the Italian resistance. But it blew up after that. And it really became kind of a folk, traditional Italian song that is an anti-fascist meaning. And just recently, some Italians greeted Maloney with that song, and she was not happy about it. So
I bet she wasn't. Well done. Well, that was some gangster guerrilla activism right there. But in all seriousness, I've been thinking a lot about the theme of propaganda kills. It's a phrase that our friend Jen Senko, who created the incredible film, The Brainwashing of My Dad, about the Fox and right-wing, poison. I keep calling it a news ecosystem. There's got to be a better way to say it than that, but that's kind of what it is.
Well, it's the information sphere, right?
Yeah, exactly. So she just kind of at one point blurted propaganda kills. And the thing is, it literally does. And one of the more recent reports I've done on taking a look at the origins of anti-vax narratives, there's multiple studies that just came out just within the last year that show that those who watched Fox News in the early part of COVID were more likely to die. And the fact is, we now know, thanks to the Dominion lawsuit discovery, that the anchors who push this poison into people's minds, many of them don't believe it. We have them on record in emails and text exchanges where they clearly don't believe it. They make fun of people who lie, like Sidney Powell and Rudy Giuliani and Trump, and yet they still put that poison out there. And Jim, in the research that you do related to the mind war and radicalization and hi-fi, the news that you report, we know that propaganda kills people. These lies kill people. People have killed their family members over this stuff. They've gone out and done mass shootings. I'm not going to lie, I'm a bit triggered as we head into 4th of July, because last year we did a beautiful interview with President Jackie Singh on 4th of July. And then just a couple hours later, there was a horrific shooting in Highland Park, Illinois, which I'm sure everybody remembers. And so, we have people who are still trying to incite civil war in America, calling for violence through stochastic terrorism. And I hope our country has learned something. And Jim, I think that's a cue for you to check in.
I did an experiment once where I took a map of Republican versus Democrat, a map of average death per capita from COVID, and a map on vaccine hesitancy. Guess what? Same map. Little like the intricate details of the map are the same.
Yeah.
And guess why? Because a high percentage of Republicans are watching Fox. And what's going on Fox? Fucking Tucker Carlson's up there like yapping about absolute bullshit, open the schools and stop your liberal, like, right? Then Donald Trump's got who in the White House? Who do you have in the White House? On fucking stage at the White House, pushing magical cures for COVID. Mike fucking Lindell.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody remembers that, but
Yeah.
Donald Trump's fucking solution was to have this brain fuck Kremlin dipshit who sells pillows get up there and talk about, I can't remember, it was like something that you usually cook with or something. And it was like, what the fuck? So yeah, it really kills, right? It actually murders people, which is why I get so upset when it's like, oh, look at the crazy anti-vax people. No,
Right.
they're knowingly, intentionally murdering people with words.
Yeah.
And
Right.
we have a hard time getting a grip around that idea.
We don't want to believe it. We
Put some
don't want
shit
to
in
believe
people's
it.
head, and then it'll make them do stuff that'll get themselves or somebody else killed. Well, what happened in the summer of fucking 2020 when Donald Trump had 50, 70,000 people crammed together with no masks on during the middle of a pandemic? What did he do? He created a shitload of suicide bombers.
Yeah. Right.
Literally. You can cram them all together, everybody gets sick, and then goes out and gets grandma and grandpa.
Herman Cain. Remember Herman Cain?
Herman, how many COVID casualties we got on the Republican
Here,
side? They lost an entire generation of radio hosts, if I recall.
I just retweeted an old thread where I was documenting the amount of anti-vaxxers who died. I gave up at one point. Yeah.
Here's my worry, though, Jim, and this is something you pointed out earlier today. Let's talk about this real fast. And we shall have it this July 4th and onwards. The American people are dug in. This is our country and our inheritance. Our independence will not be denied. What
the actual hell?
So
what the hell?
Mike Flynn, through his fake nonprofit America's Future, declared independence from the United States. Literally, bring that back up for a second. He declared independence from the United States because he's rebelling against tyranny. In another part of this article, he lists out all the reasons why King George, the fucking British Crown, and Joe Biden are the same, and that's why we need a fucking revolution. He said that, and he said he gave a date, July 4th. He's saying on the 4th of July, we're independent from the United States. That's how he's celebrating his 4th of July. I don't know if anybody else remembers, but a couple of years ago, he celebrated the 4th of July by pledging his oath to QAnon.
Yeah.
So why this motherfucker gets to run around declaring war on the United States and actually doing it? If it would be one thing if he was just out here just being some kind of blowhard. But he's not. He's been actually, literally waging war on American citizens since 2016. Intentionally waging psychological war on the American people.
An incredible Byline supplement article just dropped today. It should be on the front page that actually dates that back a bit, 2012, 2013, and raises the questions that you've been raising. What was he doing then? Was the question.
Well, I got the whole.
I know, and we would need to do a whole. Yeah.
But I'm talking about Snowden.
Yeah.
He let Putin invade Crimea as DIA director. He went to fucking GRU headquarters in 2013 at the same time that Edward Snowden and took into his fucking top secret DIA servers. Isn't that fucking weird? I'm crimes, but I don't know if you call that war. But after he sat down with Putin in 2015 with Jill fucking Stein, that was war. That, if somebody asked me when World War III started, gun to my head, that meeting. When those two got together and said, we're going to put this orange dumb puppet in the White House. And Flynn's like, I know how to do that. I've been taking over countries around the world, which is what he brags about all the time. I've been doing that for decades. Poots, don't you worry about it. I've got it. And then he fucking did it. And he's still doing it, and we're doing nothing about it. So yes, sorry, I now.
No, this is all very important. So Professor Tamsin Shaw.
That is an escalation. There's another escalation that I just briefly want to touch on. Flynn is going full ISIS. And what I mean by that is the most dangerous part of the Pizzagate QAnon ideology, he is fully embracing. He said, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was, there it is. Are there cannibals and psychopaths? You bet there are. Cannibals. He fucking went to cannibals. And then he said, these pedophiles, we need to string them up around their neck and throw them in deep water. Now, here's the problem. The person he was talking about when he wrote that batshit crazy thing, it was a sheriff, the sheriff of Polk County, who was spinning this disgusting.
I don't think we can show it on the show.
No.
It's so bad.
Description of child porn, all of this.
And who keeps getting busted for that world, by the way? It's not the drag queens,
Right. But it's one Disney employee. The point is that the sheriff kept saying Disney, the Disney employee. This is what Disney gets you in Florida. He's literally the whole thing from the sheriff was Disney has a bunch of pedophiles.
Yeah.
Now, in the
Right.
tweet that Mike Flynn said, what do you say? So we need to string them up and throw them in the fucking water, right? Now, I am in no way, I mean, but here's the problem.
He
He's
didn't
not,
say
hold
string them
on.
up. He said a yoke around their necks and throw them into deep water.
That's
Just
it.
to be,
What is a yoke?
a yoke is a big wooden harness that is normally put on oxen or cow to pull a plow.
Okay.
Big heavy wood thing.
All right. Okay. Whatever the fuck. He
Yes.
killed the pedos, right?
Yes.
But the problem is that he's extending pedos to all of Disney
Yeah. So
because
dangerous.
it's
So
a
bad.
target. Because it's a target of these people because they're scapegoating them, right? Now, who else? Who's a target in QAnon? Who's a pedophile in QAnon fiction?
Right.
Right?
Fiction.
Who are the cannibals and
Oh.
literally the satanic cannibals in the worst parts of Pizzagate fiction? The Democrats.
Yeah.
Starting with the head satanic Democrat Hillary Clinton. Like, and just to say this, that cannibal shit goes back to the protocols of the Elders of Zion and way before that. The cannibal libel is anti-Semitic insanity that was popularized at the turn of the 20th century with the protocols of the Elders of Zion, which was a pretend discovery about a cabal of Jews who were going to go get all the goyim cows and milk them and eat them and kill them
I can't.
so that they could have a Jewish one world government. That's what the protocols of the Elders of Zion was. And guess what happened after that? The Nazis picked that idea up directly. Whoop, picked it right up and said, the Jews are the reason we lost World War I. The globalists, the communists, the socialists, the Marxists. And what Donald Trump put out a video tonight saying this is the final battle against the communists, the socialists, and the globalists. Globalist just means Jews to these people. You guys know that, right?
Yeah.
It's
You've
fucking.
explained that.
I'm just saying.
It's racist. It's awful. It's dangerous. It's horrible. It's
anti-Semitic,
unimaginative.
dangerous blood libel. There.
Yeah.
We're not talking about history rhyming.
Yeah.
We're talking about plagiarism.
Yeah. And so dangerous. So I asked you earlier today, when you have people who are on video calling for violence in anticipation of January 6th, I don't understand why they're allowed to continue running around calling for violence, running around radicalizing people, doing radicalization tours with the worst people in the world. I don't understand it. I'm wearing my Jack Smith shirt as a bit of a psyop because I do believe these people should be afraid of getting some door knocks because I think it's coming. Whether it's the lawyers, the people who are inspiring it, I have to think it's coming.
Yeah, can I give you my speculation?
Yeah.
Maybe it's opium, but I don't think so.
Oh, sell a little.
Here's the thing, right? Everyone keeps asking me how come Mike Flynn and Roger Stone haven't been indicted? Who's the last person to get indicted in any investigation?
People they haven't interviewed yet.
Right. That's what I mean. If they haven't interviewed, they don't generally interview the targets, especially when the last 4 fucking times they sat in front of court, they just said it over and over again.
Yeah.
Right? Jack Smith isn't going to be interested in that motherfucker.
No.
He's interested in guess who? Every single person around him. All of those people are getting subpoenaed. Literally, he's got 84 people on a list somewhere. I want to see it, but I don't want to see it because they're going to use that if we get to see it. But he's got Jeff Clark, who was cooperating deeply with Flynn, John Eastman, Rudy Giuliani just got called up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like all the people around him are going. So either Mike Flynn has managed to psyop Jack Smith, or he's a target, and it will come when it comes. But I mean, the danger of waiting for Jack Smith is the same danger of waiting for fucking Robert Mueller.
Oh, I understand that.
The goddamn Secretary of Army, the Secretary of Defense, the
I
Joint
know.
Chief should be recalling this motherfucker. Like, yo, you're getting a pension. Guess what? We need you. We need you back here, buddy. So we're gonna call you back up. We're gonna just come on back. Oh, give me those stars. Okay. Hey,
I
I'm gonna
know.
take those fucking stars, and then we're gonna throw you in the fucking clink. That is what should happen a long time ago. But I think they're scared of doing that, and they're waiting for the justice.
Well, hi-fi, I know exactly what you're going to say. Bad optics, right? Is that where you're going?
Well, no, it's.
Oh, I thought you were going to the brother Charles.
No, it's amazing that any time in the press now, when they talk about the December 18th meeting at the White House, they talk about Giuliani and they talk about Powell, but you never ever see Flynn's name mentioned anymore. And I don't know what
they do gymnastics to avoid his name, and part of the reason for that is because he makes it really painful for people to say anything about him. Trust me.
You think?
I'm laughing.
So it has to get, in my view, it has to, for Flynn stories have to get over a big kind of something in front of them. But I mean, the thing for me is like, don't listen to me. He's doing it right there. You see what he's doing, right? You see you see where he said Ukraine is a big lie, and we need to get out there immediately and get somebody in the White House who can play ball on the world stage, meaning give fucking Ukraine to Putin. Like he's declaring independence. He's like creating American ISIS. What is it going to fucking take? I don't know.
No.
I keep yelling about it until somebody does something.
I did want to say that Hi-Fi, you sent me that report yesterday that showed that when his brother needed to serve our country and save some police officers from being murdered by an angry mob, according to the report, he was worried about bad optics, and it was a bad scene.
You mean the U.S. government report?
Yes.
January 6th? Yes. They were like, I don't know, buddy. Everybody said they used the optics.
Bad optics.
So real quick, Charles Flynn, commanding general of the United States Army Pacific, has 90,000 troops under his command. If there is a war with China or a conflict in Taiwan, guess who shows up? Charles fucking Flynn with his 90,000 troops. So, okay, well, they're brothers, big deal. Well, it would be less of a big deal if Charles Flynn didn't overtly, actively not only help his brother with the insurrection, but lied about it. Lied about it to Congress, lied about it to the Inspector General. The head of the National Guard, the DC National Guard, Charles Walker, said this about Charles Flynn: he is an absolute liar, and is the report that he delivered was worthy of the best Stalinist or North Korean propaganda. That was what the head of the DC National Guard, who was chomping at the fucking bit to get in there, said about Charles fucking Flynn. Charles Flynn not only had the hosted the video call, the Army lied about it. The Army lied for days about the fact that Charles Flynn was hosting that phone call. So the fact that this guy's out there while his brother is trying to start a war with China, right? That's all Flynn does is China, 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 China. And Charles is out there with the head of military intelligence, for India, trying to gin up shit on the border with China. We've got a problem. It's not just this, renegade general who's over there psyoping the people. We got a motherfucker out there with aircraft carriers. But I don't want a Flynn brother with aircraft carriers. I don't give a shit. I'm sorry, but they lost their aircraft carrier card,
Privileges.
as far as I'm concerned.
Well, also the other brother says super shitty things about me from behind a block, and it's just tacky. It's just tacky. This is just bad.
It's not tacky. Let me be clear. Joe Flynn is openly working with stalkers who threaten, defame, try and deplatform, try and scare our subscribers. Joe's right.
That's the operation.
In the middle of his brother suing me for defamation.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So I just want to. It's not tacky. I just want to. I don't want to.
I just think it's a sad life, man. What a sad life.
Well, he's doing a lot more than that. Joe's involved with the 1AT, the First Amendment Victorians.
Yeah.
He's got lots of roles in Flynn network.
I wish he could get help. He seems like the one who might potentially be able to get help and save his ass somewhere along the line, because I think the other one's pretty far gone. Yes, hi-fi.
Hi, Joe. I know you're out there watching. I'm serious, man. When they come for you, take the deal. Tell them everything you know. Wash your fucking hands. Your sins can be cleansed, bro. I'm telling you. All right, bye, Joe.
You know how you get an even better deal, Joe? Go to them.
Go to them. Yeah, go to them.
Go now.
Here's the
also,
thing.
yeah.
Hold on.
Agents are standing by.
Agents, perfect. That's it. Joe, listen, man. I know you weren't always like this. You were just beer hat Joe, making fucking burgers in the backyard as a conservative Democrat. You weren't some crazy fucking psycho trying to overthrow the government and calling people transphobic shit out of the blue. You weren't that guy always, buddy.
Yeah.
And what happened to you is your brother, who's a psychological warfare expert, brain fucked you, buddy. And I know it's hard to hear, but you're gonna have to come to terms with it. Now you can either come to terms with it early and realize that you've been used by your brother for years and years to do his dirty work for him. You can either realize that now, or you can realize it at some point after several years in prison. That's a bad place to process these feelings. So my recommendation is you start processing right now. You go to the appropriate authorities, get yourself somebody to talk to, maybe get little meds.
No, actually, in all seriousness, I am saving a chair for him in the rooms that I go to, should he be interested.
Listen, as I've offered to Joe, once he gets out of prison, we should go to a ball game or something, buddy. It'll be great. You can have your beer. I'll smoke the joint. It'll be awesome.
No, I'd like him to be sober by then. Then he can make amends for all the harms that he's caused.
Whatever.
Me personally.
I don't think that's his big problem. I think
it's part of it. I think it's part of the family's problem, to be honest with you.
I mean, they're Irish, and there's some drinking that goes on there. But
yeah.
I don't make any accusations, and lots of people have drinking problems. Not lots of people actively try and
overthrow the government. So I am looking forward to not talking about this family that commits all these harms for the next 10 minutes, because there are other things that are happening. There was another unfortunate defenestrated Russian today. Marty actually took a look. Martin Scheel, yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh no, it's this was unique because she was a banker, only 28 years old, had just called somebody at 3 a.m. and said, "Hey, come over." It's like that's usually not the time that you spontaneously defenestrate, so I would recommend everybody take a look at Betty Dangerous, because Marty goes down the rabbit hole of all the offshoring related to this. And he thinks that perhaps not only should Russian bankers stay away from Windows, but they might want to be careful enabling shell companies in the British Virgin Islands too. That was his takeaway.
My takeaway continues to be that once all of this is said and done, once all the people are in prison, the greatest scandal of all will be the Russian window industry's deplorable safety record.
So yes,
I did see something interesting. In which supposedly she was supposedly on some intoxicant. Her boyfriend was at the apartment.
Yeah.
And filmed her climbing out the window and falling to her demise, which seems like a totally normal thing to do when your girl is higher than
crawling out the 11th floor window.
Yeah. So let's film it, right? Let's put it, TikTok.
Bad
BK,
scene. Bad scene.
I mean, that's good content if you're on TikTok, right? I mean, wow.
I do want to point out, though, that a lot of people still don't know what defenestration is. And I just want to point out that I did a very superficial dive. I wouldn't call it a deep dive, but
into the Russian window safety.
In Prague in 1419, the defenestration, that kind of old-timey fashion of death that's been popularized of late, it was made popular in Prague in the 1400s as a way to express dissatisfaction with local government. And in fact, in 1419, a judge, a burgermeister, and several members of the town city council were given the heave-ho. So just FYI, it does have a history. And not surprisingly, a country that missed the Age of Enlightenment might still use this form of complaint and dissatisfaction expression.
Yes, it is. Excuse me, I'd like to speak to the manager.
Hey, I'm not laughing at a young woman's demise, but as Marty,
at a certain point, it's okay to make jokes about the deplorable safety record of the Russian.
But I do want to say something quite serious. When I was reading Professor Tamsin Shaw's piece in Byline Supplement today, which I think I sent you, which had the amazing question of going back a decade and looking at who was doing what a decade ago, who was meeting with who, where was Bannon, where was Farage, where was Mercer, where were all these people? I'm always up reading this stuff in the middle of the night, and all I could say to myself was, wait a minute. It's been a minute since I thought about Cambridge Analytica. It's been a minute since I thought about the Internet Research Agency. We just had Zarina Zabriskie on the show reminding us that the people who we think are running things are usually figureheads installed as the head of the hierarchy of the operation, which she explained Prigozhin is for both Wagner and the Internet Research Agency. But then I started thinking about all the St. Petersburg connections, the Lukoil connection, and the professor that they had who was from St. Petersburg. And I began to wonder, just as Putin said, that Wagner really is part of the Russian military and budgeted as so. So all those war crimes fall right on Putin's feet. I'm hoping that Prigozhin and Putin continue to be very chatty, because maybe they're just going to admit that Cambridge Analytica through SCL was essentially a subsidiary of the Internet Research Agency, or vice versa, because
Well,
all the same players, man.
the reason they're not gonna admit that, but I have I think a not unfounded theory that Prigozhin has compromised on Mr. Putin, because if you recall, what he did right away when he got mad is he started dropping dirt. He was like, all that lying about why Putin invaded Crimea, that was all bullshit. Oh, you know that lie about why the fucking why we attacked Ukraine, and it was their provocation. That was all bullshit, right? So then after dropping those bombs, he fucking toodles 120 miles from Moscow, and that's how they stopped. Now, it would be one thing if it ended there, but dude has been flying around in Moscow. He's in St. Petersburg today. Going back and forth, flying all over Moscow, hanging out in St. Petersburg, doing whatever the fuck he's doing before going to Belarus for exile.
So
that's fucking bullshit, man. Like you don't fly around in Russia for 5 fucking days unless you have a agreement with Vladimir Putin, and unless you have serious leverage on Vladimir Putin, he's not going to do that for you. And he doesn't have any military leverage because all that's been is out of Putin's hair at this point.
Metaphorically
So
demonstrated.
Why is Prigozhin out here running around like pretty?
So yes, hi-fi, because I got something to say about that.
Well, you brought up 2 names. The first one I want to talk about real fast, and that is a fellow named Nigel Farage. And apparently Mr. Farage is having a little problem because I guess some people want to close his bank accounts over in the UK.
Oh.
So
Vatnik soup. A Vatnik soup.
I don't know. And then the second one is Prigozhin. And there was some interesting chatter today about Prigozhin on the usual channels. Said that his helicopter was seen in St. Petersburg, and it showed a picture of a masked man walking to the helicopter, except the masked man used his left hand to close the helicopter door behind him. And Prigozhin is missing a part of a finger on his left hand, and this person was not. So they're running fucking body double bullshit.
You would know that because it's theater craft, fog of unknowability. I don't know. What I do know is
they're running game. That's all.
What I do know is that the Internet Research Agency delivered Brexit, delivered fucking Trump, delivered the lies about what was happening in Ukraine in 2014, and did a bunch of other terrible things that are ongoing now, based in Africa, no longer St. Petersburg, or allegedly. Why it's important that we actually start having another conversation around this again is that Trump's allies, and those in his orbit and those in his administration, as Jim said earlier, were retweeting the Internet Research Agency propagandists. And we know that because Mueller did a very, very thorough indictment of Prigozhin and 13 members of this military operation. So for us,
you can also go on Twitter and see it. They're still there.
So what's interesting about this is that, Don Jr., who had a few million followers, was retweeting 10 GOP, as was Mike Flynn, as was Kellyanne Conway, as was Parscale. They were retweeting Internet Research Agency trolls that were creating memes and lies about Hillary Clinton, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We now know this was a military attack on our country in 2016. The members of Trump's orbit were retweeting and promoting this military attack on our country. And so, I know it's a lot to ask, Jack, but I'm waiting for some door knocks.
I would like to point out that the framing constantly with the fascists is, oops, it was a mistake, right?
Mhm.
Oh, we accidentally did it. Roseanne was telling a joke.
Mhm.
It's all a joke. It's not real. We don't mean
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
until such time as they actually freaking mean it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, Nicki Minaj, I'm sure didn't do it on purpose. I don't think she's a Russian asset or anything. But Mike Flynn was like, "Listen, this account right here. I mean, there's the tweets available.
Mhm.
This account right here. I need you to follow it and retweet it a lot. Like
Mhm. He should
5
know
days
better,
before.
right?
5 days before, of course, I mean, he knew
He should
better.
know
He knew
better.
exactly what he was doing. Now, it is not a coincidence that. So we were talking about Khalifa Haftar and Eric Prince and Prigozhin, like hanging out together, right? If Eric Prince and Prigozhin and Wagner are both supporting one Libyan warlord in the Libyan civil war, you goddamn straight that they were working together. He also wanted to work with Wagner to traffic weapons to Ukraine. He was trying to get the contract to be the main weapons source for fucking Ukraine, and Zelensky was like, "Aren't you Eric Prince?" So, thank God Zelensky, despite being a comedian, is smart as shit and saw beyond
Yeah. Yeah. What I would like to do, since we're already an hour in, and I'm sure there's like many things that we haven't discussed yet. Oh, one thing I wanted to say, Jim, is you did a very important thread as you talk about how we need to talk about mental health. And I've been writing about it. 2016, our mental safety was stolen from us. Our shared narrative was stolen from us by people like Prigozhin and the aforementioned people we've been talking about. And I think it's really important to note that uh, Bandy Lee, who has been behind the duty to warn and has done an amazing job as a doctor and a psychiatrist explaining to people and warning for the last 7 years. She lost her fight with Yale. She was fired or relieved of duties because of a Dershowitz complaint, and but she did take the time to co-sign on that thread, which I'm sure has been seen by more than 1 million people now. And I just want to say that that is something I want to talk about in a future episode. But I would like to say that part of why we're here is what Jen Sanko did in her documentary, The Brainwashing of Our Father, where she showed all of these propagandists who we now know don't even believe their own bullshit. It's a shtick to poison people for money or ratings or whatever the hell their problem is. But I'd like to have people take a look
it.
to understand how we got here. Yes, Jim.
I just want to shout out to Bandy. So yeah, I did a thread on psychological operations and how it works and what the psychological methods are. And Bandy was like, "Yeah, yeah, exactly. I've been saying that for years, and it's true. And it's a really terrible example of exactly how it works and why people don't speak out. Bandy was doing duty to warn. She was telling people, this guy that we're about to put in the White House is a dangerous psychopath who will do a fucking lot of danger to the country. She was like, guys, I know you're not supposed to there's a rule that you're not supposed to diagnose someone, but she's like, look,
You
we've
got a
got more
duty to warn.
information about this guy than any client I'm ever going to have. I have more like available evidence than I happen to have when I sit with a client. I should be able to speak out on that, even as a professional.
Yeah,
And she got absolutely targeted. Fucking Dershowitz. Remember Dershowitz?
I do.
Undies Dershowitz, who is now on Rumble. Like,
Yeah.
literally just straight Kremlin, Trump fucking propaganda all fucking day long, and he was always that. He was just quieter about it. But when he still had a little bit of juice left, he went after Bandy Lee because she had the temerity to use the expertise that she had to warn people about the fucking psychopath in the White House. So shout out to
Bandy.
Being one of the first, people to really lay that out.
She's a hero. She put out that book with 27 experts, and one of them, my friend, Dr. David Reese, and they all put their careers on the line to do this duty to warn. And 7 years later, what do we have? An exponential problem of millions and millions of radicalized people. And Bandy told us this was going to happen. So in any case, yes, high five.
And this is how it happened, at least some of it.
The idea is to terrify and terrorize the audience during every waking moment. When people are afraid, they don't think rationally. And when they can't think rationally, they'll believe anything.
Fox News is built on this formula of just getting people really, really angry. It's this phony outrage machine. Particularly on Fox News, I mean, they really are actors, acting about how outraged they are.
Give me one damn program.
Anybody else a little pissed off by that?
Obama attacks America. I'm more angry about it than you are.
I've told you that you need to be afraid because they are coming for you.
ISIS coming into America, I would bet my life on the fact they're already here. And I have caught these people before, and I've seen Korans, prayer rugs, you name it. They're already here.
A self-styled militia patrolling the Mexican-U.S. border contacted Breitbart.com and relayed the discovery of the rug Monday night just south of the Sierra Vista in Coronado National Forest. You want to know what it turned out to be? An Adidas jersey.
ISIS. I mean, they're here. They're here.
You think they're here?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think they're waiting for the whistle to blow. They're going to come out and take over. I think that's what
this country?
I think they will. I really think they do. I'm scared for the country.
The effect of bullying is simple. It operates on two levels. One is it shuts the guest up if they're making a point that the bullier doesn't want the audience to hear.
Is Hamas, what part of this can't you get through your thick head? Is Hamas a terrorist organization? An orbital eye socket fracture.
Okay.
And eyewitnesses say that Michael Brown charged at him. You weren't there.
Oh, I'm sorry. I believe you cut my mic off.
And two, the fake outrage makes the bullier look justified as they try to shame their frustrated guest into silence.
Understand, you've got an agenda here. We just think that the American people ought to know.
Our agenda is to report the news fair and balanced, Bill. I understand you don't like it, and sometimes your candidate has complained about it. But that's what we're going to do. You may have the rest of the media in the tank, but Fox News reports it straight, fair and balanced, as always. Bill Burton, thanks so much for being here.
You have other people at the border who are here illegally, who are crossing over the border, and they're very much out of the shadows.
A long time ago, the feminazis began their quest to make women more like men, acquire power like us, have careers like us, all that.
Believe scientists? No.
All flights from West Africa should immediately be discontinued.
These guns don't fire themselves. Don't we have to deal with mental health, parenting,